So Neo Geo on the cheap, it almost sounds like an oxymoron. Obviously, emulation is probably the easiest and most cost-effective route, but my experiences with that on the RetroPie weren't exactly great, and in fact, that's what prompted me to make a repro cart of Ironclad for my Alpha to Z series. The overall feel of playing several Neo titles on the Pi just didn't really compare to what I was used to with the Omega at the time. In other words, there was definitely some noticeable lag in my gameplay experiences. Conversely, however, emulating Neo on the NES and Super NES classics was definitely an improvement over the Pi, and the games just felt much more responsive and lag seemed to be minimal comparatively. Also, with the recent Hakchi and core updates, you don't need to mess with manually adding the Neo BIOS to the folders anymore. You can pretty much just add Neo games as easily as you would additional Nintendo games. So from an emulation standpoint, I'd actually give the nod to modding one of Nintendo's devices over the RetroPie route if you have both options available. Putting that aside, what I really wanted to call attention to today was not emulation, but the offering of a consolized arcade board on AliExpress. This offering is, at the time I'm recording this anyway, $186 plus $68 shipping. And that may still sound pricey, but for close to $250, it's a lot cheaper than anything else I've ever seen, and it's far less than Arcadeworks' Omega, which is $530. From the pictures and description, it looks like the AliExpress system is using an MV1C board, which is generally about $60 to $80 give or take by itself. In fact, I actually have a spare here that I can show. It's a pretty simple and clean board. It's also the same one that Arcadeworks uses inside of their Omega. Also like the Omega, it looks like this board is using a custom PCB that connects to the Jamma Edge to give you your controller ports. And speaking of controller ports, the deluxe model that the seller is offering will allow you to use both Sega Saturn controllers as well as the original Neo Geo sticks or gamepads. This is a great option if you don't own any Neo controllers, but it's going to cost you a little bit more money up front. You may still want to go with the deluxe offering anyway, as the other added benefit of the deluxe model is the addition of component video. Obviously, the two largest concerns in going with this system are its craftsmanship and ongoing support. To be completely fair, I can't really speak to either one of these, and hopefully there isn't anyone out there who has had to utilize support yet to be able to speak to that end. But when I stop and think about my Omega issues, I've been without that for more than 2 months at this point, and it's been 3 weeks since Arcadeworks has even contacted me about the system, which at that point they said it would only be a few days until they could ship it back to me. So even though I have a path to escalate my concerns and Omega issues through, responses and overall turnaround time frankly have not been great at all. So support exists, it's just not timely. In the case of the AliExpress console, again, I don't know for certain, but I'm going to guess you're not going to be getting a lot of assistance and support from the seller. But then again, it also costs less than half of what the Omega does for what is essentially the same consolized board. The question here just becomes, is it worth rolling the die on? And that's probably something that can only be answered at the individual level. For what it's worth, most people that I've seen post on Facebook so far and different forums seem to be happy with the units they've received. So at least that's a positive start for this. I'd also like to call out another consolized Neo Geo MVS option, and that is Jamma Nation X. This site builds made-to-order consolized MVS units that, according to the description on their webpage, range from $250 to $425. The owner of this website, James Whalen, is a regular contributing member to several forums and Facebook groups. He gives solid advice, helps out a lot of people, and is overall a fantastic resource for the arcade community. I've never messaged James without him giving some type of an answer to me, and he has even helped me out with a few issues on my MVS arcade cabinet behind me. Apparently, word is already out on this because James isn't able to accept any new orders and is booked through until midsummer. So back to our cheap MVS options. Let's recap. We have two models available based off of the MV1C board, the Standard and the Deluxe. Standard is giving you the ability to use the original SNK controllers with S-Video, RGB, and composite out, and it costs about $244 shipped to the US. The deluxe offering will give you the ability to use Saturn controllers, adds component video out jacks, and runs 291 shipped to the US. So the question here is $50 worth the ability to use Saturn controllers and have component video? And again, the answer to that is going to vary widely among individuals based on your current setup. I think if I had the option of starting from scratch with no current investment in anything, I'd probably just wait until Jamma Nation was taking orders and then have James custom build me a consolized Neo Geo. It just seems to be the option that best balances price with support and build quality. This is also the safest bet out of any of the three I've talked about, in my opinion. After that, I think I'd probably go with the AliExpress unit second, just based solely on price. Having a working unit for under $250 is frankly a pretty good buy in the Neo Geo world. Just recognize that you may be sacrificing a little bit of build quality, and you're taking a gamble on whether or not you're going to be able to get any type of support if you have an issue with it. And finally, I think I'm really sad that I have to say this, but I'd go with the Omega as my third choice. It may arguably be the better looking of the three options, but I've just read about too many issues from other customers. I've experienced firsthand the slow responsiveness to support, and then just the excessive $530 price tag is just the final dagger that makes this one rank dead last. Ideally, my real hope in all of this is that Analog, the company responsible for the NT, NT Mini, and more recently the Super NT, I hope they create an FPGA Neo console with HDMI. New hardware that natively outputs Neo Geo games at 1080p would be absolute bliss. I love having HDMI because it eliminates any need for that middleman scaling device like a FrameMeister or OSSC. Maybe there's more of a market for it now too, that the Neo SD, Neo SD Pro, and the Darksoft flash carts are out, and hopefully Analog considers manufacturing these because they'll have more of an audience. Until that time comes though, let me know in the comments what you guys think of this cheap MVS alternative, and definitely weigh in if you have one or are planning on purchasing one. Please like the video, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I will catch you all next time. Later, guys.